This video is brought to you by channelfireball.com. If you're using the marketplace, use the link in the description below and the code Kenobi at checkout to help support the show. Well, hello there, you lovely bunch of coconuts. I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, and today I'm going to talk briefly about the reprints of mechanically unique cards coming in Secret Lair products and other Universes Beyond products too, and where we're going to find those in later products in their magic-themed versions. If you didn't know, one of the most controversial elements of the Secret Lair Universes Beyond crossovers, the Walking Dead and the Stranger Things ones that are coming, is that they have mechanically unique magic cards in them. What that means is that instead of reskinning an existing magic card or a magic card from a recent set with a theme or flavour like they did with Godzilla in Ikoria, instead these cards are unique. There is no other magic version of them at time of printing. Now, this was such a controversy and the biggest sticking point for me with the Walking Dead one, way beyond any thematic inconsistency or concerns or problems with having Negan or a bleeding baseball bat or whatever in Magic the Gathering. It was more so that these cards were mechanically unique. The problem with having mechanically unique cards in these things, for those of you that weren't following at the time, well, there's a few problems with it really, a few reasons why it pissed people off. Firstly, they are selling you staples that you can't get anywhere else, so a limited window to get this particular game piece. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter to most formats because they weren't legal in them, but they were legal in Legacy, a competitive format which is designed to be, you know, best of 3, 1v1 Magic the Gathering. So some people are then getting a benefit to spending more money on buying singles directly from the company, and that felt pretty nefarious. Beyond that, it also created a reprint issue where with the Walking Dead ones, having Negan or Rick Astley or whatever the fuck his name is on the cards means that once they lose the license, which they will, they won't have the license indefinitely, they can never reprint those into later, like Masters sets, for example. And people don't want them either. People don't want to open up their Modern Masters 4 set boosters and find, you know, Rick Astley doing the floss or whatever it is, the dance move that he does. In essence, these cards create their own new reserved list style situation where they're difficult to print. Now, that isn't the case anymore. After the outcry and the upset around Walking Dead, Mark Rosewater did publicly say that they can reprint them with a magic theming to them. Now, they're not going to have the Godzilla treatment where you have Godzilla card name and then a little box underneath telling you what actual magic card it is. No. It has been explained that they're going to be just magic-themed versions of these cards, mechanically identical in some ways, so not mechanically unique to the cards that were in Secret Lairs, but with a magic theming. There might be a Gerard Capuchin or an Urza, character, or a new character that fits within the magic canon and aesthetic. This is kind of weird because we're going to have two different cards with two different names, but they're not playable as, 2 lots of 4. You can only play a total of 4 of Rick Astley and whatever Rick Priestley version they print into Magic. That's a really terrible... Why am I doing that with the names? Where will these Magic ones be, I guess, is the next question. Well, originally they were going to be just on the list. The list is a slot that shows up in 1 in 8 set boosters or something like that. And on there's a load of cards. And they show up in order of rarity too. So they're not in every single pack. They show up in rarity, so you most often get a common. Most of the commons aren't commons, and a lot of the rares are just complete junk. And on rare occasion, you'll hit a nice one. Basically, it's a gambling slot for the set boosters. In some ways, you can see it just as a value add. There's an argument that's just a little bit extra for people opening up set boosters to make them more exciting. Personally, I think they should land more often or just be consistently better options in there. You shouldn't have them land rarely and be a load of shit. Because the other thing is shot up like a reaction. Land rarely and be a load of shit, because then no one's fucking excited to open set boosters. So originally these were going to show up in their rarity, as described in a article that I'll link below on the mothership on the actual Magic the Gathering official website, explaining that they're going to show up in their rarities of rare in the list slot. And many people, myself included, thought this was a bad idea because the rarity at which the list cards show up and the fact they still have a rarity to themselves, so rares are much less common than say commons, means that it's not a great place to reprint things and bring down their value or make them accessible. What that means is every set booster box might have one of these things in at best, and then we're getting into this new sort of super secret hidden rarity for secret fucking Lair cards, which is thematically on point. But it just means that the Magic the Gathering themed version of Rick Astley or Hopper from the Stranger Things thing is going to be really fucking expensive. Now, Wizards are pretty good at listening to feedback sometimes. It's hit and miss sometimes. It seems like they have acknowledged, not openly said, actually, you know what, that was a bad idea, but they have shifted and changed again in their methodology, and this is a good thing. As announced on the 16th, which was 2 days ago, on the official weekly MTG, Blake Rasmussen had this to say on the topic of frequency of these printings.
Another additional bit of information that I wanted to share with you all on the Stranger Things drop. So again, we shared a little bit ago that the Stranger Things cards and any Universes Beyond card that was mechanically unique would, down the line, receive a in-Magic treatment. So it would be the same card, but it would be flavored after a Magic character existing or not. But more flavored in the Magic multiverse. Those would come in the list down the line. So wanted to give you, there were a lot of questions about how often those would show up, so I actually have some numbers. I went digging with the studio, and they let me know that, so the Magic equivalent of the Stranger Things cards are going to show up on the list in Streets of New Capenna. That'll give you a timeline of when they're going to show up. And then in that set, approximately one out of every 8 Streets of New Capenna set boosters will contain the Magic equivalent of one of these Stranger Things cards. They will all drop at the same rarity. And then another 1 out of every 8 set boosters will contain the rest of the list. So effectively, 1 out of every 4 set boosters in Streets of New Capenna will contain a card from the list. Half of those, approximately, again, will be the Magic versions of these cards, and half of them will be other cards from the list. So these will be significantly more common than other cards on the list. Just for Streets of New Capenna, that ratio is going to change for the list after Streets of New Capenna.
So 1 in 4 set boosters will have a card from the list. Half the time it will be a Stranger Thing card, and half the time it will be a card from the list. This is only and specifically going to be for Streets of New Capenna for the Stranger Thing activation, integration, whatever you want to call it, and this is much, much better. What it does mean is that the cards that are on the list will become even rarer to find in set boosters, which is kind of a funny byproduct, but ultimately that isn't anything to care about too much because, well, it's not a great place to reprint cards anyway. It is, like I said, kind of a value add, but being propped up as a reprint space isn't true. It's just a shit place to do that. So they will be double the frequency, double as common as we initially thought. I still think that there's a potential that these cards could still hold quite a high secondary market value because they might be relatively rare, but on the upside, it sounds like they are listening and increasing that frequency to try and offset that a little bit. I guess time will tell because we've never really had a product or a card released in a way like this. The other interesting thing about all this is that it's coming in New Capenna, and the original article said around 6 months after a Secret Lair comes out with mechanically unique cards, you would get them in set boosters in the list slot of a following set. So this 6-month lead time is interesting because, well, the Secret Lairs take fucking ages to come out to us anyway, even outside of a global pandemic damaging supply chains. So really, you buy them, you get them fucking months and months later, or you get them months and months later in the set. Hopefully these things will line up, and that way people aren't basically paying for an exclusive window of owning these cards and having them legal in, say, Legacy, for example, for like a month or two before people can get the Magic equivalents. I think if they line up, this is pretty good. If supply chain issues lessen, or they get better at printing these in a more consistent manner, and they stop being so long on the lead time if you're getting your Secret Lairs, then there could still be that window, and that's something I really dislike the idea of as well, like paid for early access to a card that can be played in a competitive format. The other interesting point to all of this is that, well, where do the Lord of the Rings and the Warhammer 40k cards sit on all this? If you're not aware, there's going to be Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering cards, and there's going to be Warhammer 40k. Lord of the Rings is going to be a draftable, playable set, and Warhammer 40k is going to be commander decks. How many? What factions? We just don't know at this point. But it's safe to say some people are still going to have their knickers in a twist over the idea that we're going to have non-Magic the Gathering cards floating around in Magic the Gathering. Personally, I don't really care too much, especially if they weren't mechanically unique, but they probably are going to be. Let's say there's a card for a Necron Overlord on a Catacomb Command Barge. It's a flying mechanical construct thing with a Terminator-esque robot on it, and that doesn't quite fit with Magic, although to be fair, not far off some of the mechanical stuff we've seen in Magic. That's a whole different debate, I guess. Some of you might not want this, or a bolt gun, or a spaceship in your Magic the Gathering game, so you might want the Magic the Gathering equivalent, right? Like we're seeing with Hopper and the kids from Stranger Things, and other future mechanically unique secret layers, like Street Fighter and such. The original article said this, just to clarify the original wording. We plan to do all of this, and this being the putting the cards into the list slot and set boosters, for all soon to be announced Secret Lair Universes Beyond partnerships. We not plan to go back and do this for the cards from The Walking Dead. Currently this plan is for Universes Beyond sold through Secret Lair and does not include other Universe Beyond releases. Moving forward, we will continue to listen and evaluate this approach and make changes as needed. So what that means is that the Walking Dead ones are nowhere to be seen. They're AWOL if anything, but ultimately no one is really asking for this. I think when we come to the Warhammer one, we're going to have the bigger ask. And the Warhammer one's not a Secret Lair. So that's the thing I just read you, which was from back in June 7th, to be fair. And we've had changes since then in terms of approach, right? I think people are going to want the Commander-specific ones. So they're going to mention Commander. They're going to be popular in Commander, right? Commander's It's the main format of Magic. Let's not fucking lie about this. I think they're going to be more popular and perhaps more polarizing because it's Warhammer, grim dark, and weirdly at odds with Magic the Gathering's overall tone. Arguably, but again, that's a whole different conversation. I fully expect them to adjust and change things, and we'll see, hopefully, some Warhammer 40k stuff also transformed into its Magic equivalents for things like the guns and the spaceships and stuff that doesn't fit. Weirdly, there are things that will fit. The demons and the spells and things. They can actually fit into Magic pretty easily, depending on what you do with the art. So I guess this is where I throw it over to you. I explained how you're going to get them. Nuka Penna set boosters. 1 in 4 is a set booster list slot, and then half of those, so 1 in 8, is going to be Stranger Things, and the other half will be set booster stuff. And we'll get this ongoing, similarly, with each and every activation, each and every integration of a Secret Lair. What happens with the Warhammer and Lord of the Rings? Well, we just don't know. And if you're looking for the Walking Dead ones, fuck knows on that. So I'm handing over to you. What do you think? Is this enough? Do you think that it's not enough? Do you think these cards are going to be expensive? I am not a financially minded fucking investor wanker banker Magic player, but I am interested to see how expensive the Magic versions of these cards become, especially for commanders like 11 that I think are pretty strong and unique in what they do, and therefore will be quite popular in both casual and upper power level commander pots. So tell me what you think in the comment section below. In the meantime, smash the like button, don't forget to subscribe. There'll be more Magic content throughout the week in terms of gameplay, talking heads, news, commentary, and all that good shit. Be good to one another, comment down below, and I'll see you soon. Ta-ta for now.